the angel apostasy.
Splendid, absolutely splendid. Dammekos clasped his hands in front of him and shook them in excitement. Now I have your next— Why did you lie to me? Interrupted Perturabo. The variables were too numerous, and the potentialities too broad. His clearest option forward was to be direct. The Hoplitian Pass was no mission of trade. It was a staging point for your army. What lie? Dammekos laughed with an innocent smile that matched his eyes. Lokos is a martial city. We deal in swords and sorties as well as silks and sables. Do not dance around me with metaphor and expect me to applaud you slack-jawed. A lie by omission is no less deceitful. Do not hurl accusations for your lack of inquiry. I have omitted nothing. You asked me for details. I provided them. I wanted the pass in such a condition that would be suitable for trade. Thanks to temporary bloodshed, the pass has become the most direct path to Eurysthenia, and trade has never flowed more quickly nor safely as it does now. I will not be moved by your post hoc justifications for war. It sidesteps the point and is immaterial to my concern, which is your dishonesty and inability or unwillingness to admit it. Perturabo did not move, but the directness of his words moved the hands of Dammekos's guards to their weapons. Your request for information was in regards to how and why I wanted the monster removed. That is how I envisioned it. The joy gone, Dammekos spoke the words matter-of-factly. His body, a statue in posture and stillness. An errant flicker of his eyes preceded a shift in his tone. Smoothly, he leaned forward, resting on an elbow. At that moment, I was unaware of your moral leanings. I understand better now, and in appreciation of your efforts, I will endeavor to be more direct in my requests and explanations. The two stared at each other. Is that satisfactory? Dammekos said, with eyes weary with patience. Perturabo nodded in response. Dammekos returned to his authoritative posture and instructed Perturabo on his next task. Follow-up questions dragged on until the instructions were spitefully specific. Perturabo left a court of exhausted faces to find a wry smile waiting for him. Ooh, now that was a harsh lesson for the insult, Caliphone said as she leaned on a wall. He should feel lucky I opted against a more hands-on lesson. While short, my time here has taught me harsh lessons, physical or otherwise, are the ones that stick. Can I help you? Would you join me in my room? There are a few things I'd like to discuss. Perturabo agreed and followed her. A room was a modest description of the open, interconnected chambers that made up Caliphone's wing of the estate. They sat on a balcony in lounge chairs, partially facing out to a water garden where children blissfully played. Gesturing to her servants, Caliphone said, Dammekos is not in the habit of apologizing to anyone outside of snide remarks. That was an apology? Perturabo asked before a servant came with 2 goblets of wine. He quickly sniffed and sipped the thick magenta, aerating it on his tongue and puckering his lips satisfactorily, all before Caliphone received her goblet. As close as I've seen. She swirled her drink before taking a sip. And I'm not sure that is a good or bad thing for you. Perturabo took a long look at her. I appreciate the concern, but this is twice now. What has brought upon such consideration? Her eyebrow crooked above a sweet smile. Have you been infected with courtly paranoia so soon? Perturabo frowned and looked out to the gardens. No. Since I've come to Lokos, every act of kindness has been overtly self-serving. Even your brother Andos, whose passion I admire, looks at me with hungry eyes, that I might slip him a technique or piece of wisdom he has missed. He turned back to her. But you, it is not obvious what you gain here. Caliphone's head nodded as she stared into her goblet. Protest if you will, but you learn quickly. She looked up. Her eyes withstood the sheer cold of his. There is a mixture of earnestness and ingenuity about you that I admire. Each trait is rare across the courts of Olympia, and seemingly non-existent as a pair. I'd hate to see it misused, or worse, snuffed out before it could do any good. Perturabo mulled on that longer than the wine. What is good to you? Surely it is not ransacking a city open to trade with you. That is a negative. But what about your positive vision for good? Dammekos has one. Bloody and deceitful it may be, but his good ends in stable rulership and open trade across Olympia. Do you believe your ends justify the means as he? Are you not opposed to his wars? I've been to your library. Even a cursory reading through the non-stop barbaric cycle of Olympia's history shows that war is one of many tools in statecraft. I'm opposed to being lied to. Without examining it, who's to say your interpretation of good is any better than Dammekos? Caliphone did not speak for a few moments. They both looked out to the gardens. Each new task provided some avenue or advantage for Lokos to move on their increasingly wary neighbours. As Perturabo was en route to his next assignment, he would go out of his way to witness each and every one of Lokos's aggressions. So enthralled was he by this urge that he had brought writing material to detail the correct plan of attack. He would leave his macabre works in his room along with minor trophies from his excursions. Extraordinarily, over time, the tactics of the men improved at an alarming rate, and in turn, so did the thoroughness of Perturabo's critiques. Scathing was his indictment of the competency of the generalship, but the rare compliment was glowing. When Perturabo arrived for his 8th task, Dammekos broke from their new routine. I have a proposition. You are nothing if not blunt, so I shall speak to you in your language. I wish to alter our relationship. I want you as my general, my first. We call your tasks completed, I serve you Hector, and anything else you wish on Olympia if you would serve me on the battlefield. Perturabo's cold gaze left Dammekos for a brief moment. With a glance at the nervous and angry audience, he understood at once. No. We had an agreement, and I shall stick to that. If it is within my power, I leave no pact unfulfilled. A man with skin tight, lined and leathered, stepped forward. His youthful eyes, sharp and bright, in high contrast to his thick white beard, nearly matched Perturabo in intensity. Your tactics are incredible, and your total summation of the field at each moment beggars belief. The wonders we could accomplish with your leadership would be the envy of the gods. Perturabo's face showed a piteous sadness, which artisans across Olympia would attempt in vain to depict throughout the ages. To use Philippus, the only one of your toy soldiers in your nepotistic den of advisors that I thought had any potential. It saddens me. I should have seen this coming. No. Perhaps I was willfully blind. I wanted so much to see these men rise above how I found them. I will not make the same mistake again. Dammekos leaned forward on an elbow. His carefully crafted aura of control slipped as his fear of losing this opportunity grew. Perturabo, let the offer sink in for a moment. Anything your heart desires can be yours with but a whisper. No, and this will be my last word on this. After I will let my hammer speak for me. Ask no more of me in this, and be grateful for when it is all over, that the tactical acumen you so covetously pine after is not turned on you. Perturabo spoke the words coldly, as if the offer was so insignificant that he was all but detached from the proceedings. Dammekos, for the smallest fraction of a second, let fury reach his eyes, before clamping down on it and resuming his practiced calm. So be it. If you do not wish to lead men out in the splendor of war, you shall turn your talents inward towards the betterment of the people of Lokos. The next 4 tasks had Perturabo perform great works. He had created mechanical marvels in the Charybdis, large burrowing machines used to bore through mountains, which further eased the travel of trade routes between cities. He had detailed intricate plans for an observatory that granted sight throughout the land and across the heavens. And despite his size, he had managed to infiltrate 2 neighboring cities to obtain ancient artifacts, which would be put to better use in Lokos. One which produced massive amounts of energy with little fuel. The other a tool of leisure, a gift for his daughter. It took in common textiles and rapidly produced all kinds of intricate and wonderful garments, unable to be reproduced by hand.